I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gosh, I forgot. It's been so long. I forgot I was supposed to do that.
All right. You're just
Okay,
testing it.
now, Mary Kay, roll call.
Dr. Dave Bardo.
Present.
Jill Maddock Nelson.
Here.
Dr. Noel Deep. Katie Estringa.
Present.
Dr. Julie Sprague.
Here.
Danny Pyatt.
Here.
Okay. Unless Mark wants to talk, we have no public comments. Okay. New business, A, description of district-owned properties. And I had asked for that, and I see we have a big pile from the abstract company. I had gone in and I saw the listing, but there's more information here tonight.
This is the information that Mike has provided us, Mike Winter from Attorney Winter. And he was going to come tonight with more of a summarized list, but due to family reasons, he was not able to be here this evening.
Okay.
So he asked if he could be moved to the February. He'd like to present
Absolutely.
it and go through it. He
I would appreciate that.
apologizes
Oh, no.
and-
No
yeah,
problem.
so-
Things happen. Family always comes first. So we'll just put that aside and we will deal with that in February and tell Mike not an issue at all. Okay, purchase of a SAN storage unit or an SAN storage unit.
Yeah, Mark's gonna talk.
Yeah.
At least I hope
Come
so.
on.
Yeah.
Come on, you can come down, Mark.
I got one.
She's quick.
So our sand storage is where everything that everybody has data and everything is stored locally in our network, in our buildings. It's all here at the high school and everybody feeds back to this storage unit to get all their files and where the servers are stored and everything. It's all on that one big box. It's coming due to get end of service of April 30th, 2023, which brings me to asking you to purchase another one. There's a million different ways to go. As you can see by the bids, the 53,490 that I'm recommending to purchase will take us 10 years into the future. The 33,001 and the other ones that I've looked at are,
I didn't have the
sorry.
bids.
Yeah,
We don't have the bids.
we don't have the
I just
bids,
had
Mark.
the, did
Okay.
you put that on there? I'm sorry.
yeah, I'll send it out.
Yeah, no problem.
Is this gonna come in an email or?
Yeah, I'll just send an email.
Okay.
Sorry, I sent it late, I think, on last Thursday.
I got the email, but there was nothing attached to it. I didn't know if you were bringing.
Yeah, there was no attach, it was all right in the.
Oh, okay. Do you have a mark on the website?
I'm just going to send here in just a second. And it's right in the body of the email.
The current contract, it's not the word you use, but is expires when again?
It expires June 30th,
June.
23. And it's
Thank
the end of service. When
That's-
IT stuff, you have an end of
Yep.
life, which means they stop producing and they stop letting you buy maintenance products for them. End of service means you don't get anything anymore. Once that date comes, if something happens to it, you're just out of luck. It'll be really hard to find parts. Nobody's gonna service it for you unless you wanna pay deeply, to have somebody come and repair it. We need to get it replaced by that date. And part of the email is I was gonna go a little atypical on you guys and ask if it would be all right if I was to be able to order the stuff tomorrow, and with the option that we can always cancel if the full board doesn't agree with it. The reason being, the last prognosis, it would take 12 weeks to get the equipment in, which puts us right at June 1st, and then I have to schedule to get it installed and everything. So I'm just asking, it's entirely up to you guys, it's your option. So that's the sand storage.
Is there a penalty for canceling?
No, it's all pretty much universal equipment that we're ordering. It's
My
nothing
personal-
off the wall that,
Mark, my personal feeling is that it's going to go through the board.
okay,
We're going to have to say yes, because we have no other option, because you have to have a sands unit. And if this one is going to, quote, die, because
it
you're,
won't die. It's
But,
just
yeah,
we
they're
won't-
go-
We won't be able to service it after that date
Right.
without extensive, work.
exactly. So I mean, I can't see anyone on the board saying no, but that's my opinion.
Yeah.
But I assume you're talking Camera Corner
Yes,
slash
yes.
the 53,
Yep. And I'll be
490.
here on that full board meeting too,
Yeah.
to help if there's any other questions beyond that, so.
Okay. Okay, and then you have in about the cameras, which is
Yeah,
the next thing on the agenda.
Yep, the replacement and additional security cameras. We sort of committed to Camera Corner with the Ava camera, security camera system. And I always, go ahead.
Sorry, can we go back
Yeah,
to the
sure.
sand purchase? Did we finish that discussion? Then we're moving in? Or is
Go ahead.
it all within
Doesn't
B and
matter,
C?
it's up- I'm entirely up to
Well, I
you
just
guys,
wanted to
so-
share that. I would support your request to make the purchase and it still go through the full board. And if for some reason, not to, speak on behalf of the full board, but if the board decides not to approve it with the agreement, then, that you would cancel it, but if there's no penalty, I would share support for doing that. So I just want to make sure.
As would I.
Yeah.
Danny?
Yeah, isn't this the same company that you've used in the past?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
We
what I thought.
have like a continual commitment with them year after year that we get E-rate money for them to come and pay, and do the work for us in-house. So,
Right.
just try and keep it as simple as possible and yet get the work done.
Especially with no problems, if we would happen to say no.
Right.
The board would
Yeah.
have to say no.
Mhm. Yep,
It's kind
exactly.
of a win-win to get that here.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. So,
So we good on this now? Okay.
okay.
So on the cameras, I guess the big thing for me would be understanding why we're going to replace, and then where additional.
Yeah, the replacement, the ones that we're replacing are from 2016. Again, they were end of life, end of service like a year and a half ago. So the security cameras and everything really just got turned over to my department in the last 6 months. So now I'm just trying to do some catch-up here now with the replacement. The additional ones are in places that have no coverage whatsoever right now. And I want to get those nailed down there. Most of them are outside. One of them is on the northwest corner of the middle school. And so it would cover 7th and down Edison. There's absolutely nothing on that corner right now. We've got the southwest covered. We have the northeast covered. We have the southwest covered, but there's been nothing in that corner.
Okay.
That's one
Across from the,
example.
the churches across the street?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, used to be the Marinantha.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Can't remember.
Christ
Is it-
Christ gospel.
Oh, thank you. So that's one example. We're moving some cameras to make a better location, and we are putting 4 cameras where there was 1, covering like the multi-purpose rooms and the gymnasiums. That one set of 4 cameras would cover it much better, being in the middle than only having the one stuck in the corner. If you ever had to zoom, and there's cages on it, and we're gonna have stronger cameras in there where we don't have to have security stuff on there. They'll take a beating, whatever the kids wanna do to them, so, and they're covered if they did something to them. So, trying to think, the aquatic center, the north side of the aquatic center is not covered right now. The northwest corner of the tech ed wing right now is not covered. There's 3 more spots.
Outside?
Yes. Yep. There's door 17 that leads off. If you come down the balcony steps, that's door 17. There's nothing there right now. So, and that door is used for visiting athletics, like basketball teams, football teams come in there, use our locker rooms and dress. So I mean, there's nothing covering that opening right now. So there's an example.
So Mark, is it basically just here at the high school and that one at the middle school?
No, this is at high school and middle school, the bulk of them. The bulk of them will be here at the high school again, but there's quite a few at the middle school also.
But just those two schools?
Those two buildings, because that's where the security cameras started, so that's why they have the oldest ones. And then with the system that we set up last year, we actually have about another 4.5 years that we get to replace the other older ones and still not have to deal, because we'll be totally cloud-based by that point. Last year, we bought some in-house storage where the cameras record back to that storage unit. And in 5 years, we won't have to replace those appliances because we'll be totally cloud-based then. We got 5 years, and this is just another step in that process of getting done.
For the two purchases, are we able to use ESSER? Or,
This will be coming out of my budget itself because I have ESSER funds to buy my other stuff, like the laptops and everything I need for the devices for next fall. I'll actually use my budget to cover these now because I have ESSER funds to cover
okay.
these.
Was this part of your budget? You just said that you recently took on this?
Mhm.
Is that part of your budget initially? Like you were prepared for this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yeah,
You're good.
it started actually last year in
Okay.
my budget and stuff, so.
Got it.
Yeah, because last year's startup came out of my budget last year too, so. Another step.
Be tough, you get halfway through the year and then you find out, oh, I've got another area that I have to budget for.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
You were very good at budgeting and funding grants, so it's like,
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to find some stuff to help pay for things, so.
Okay, any other further questions for Mark?
just confirming the cameras, you will wait for the full board.
I can, yes.
Did you
Yes,
didn't
yes.
need it sooner?
I mean, it would be nice, but like I said, I'm stepping out of the norm here with the committee organization, so, I mean, if you feel
Let's-
comfortable with me, I would love to get that started and get it going, but if you'd like me to wait,
That one, I think we should wait.
okay.
Just,
No problem.
I'm positive it'll go through, but
Yep,
let's just
yeah,
wait
yeah,
on that
Better
one.
safe than sorry, that's
Yeah.
not a problem.
Okay. All right, Mark, thank you.
Mark.
Thank you.
Drive safely.
Oh, yeah.
Careful on the east-west, I've heard that tonight a couple
In
times.
the parking lot.
Oh, the parking lot was really
You
bad.
can handle driving. It's getting, I said, especially in the parking lot, it's very slick.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
No problem, thanks for coming in to visit with us.
Yes.
Okay, we have done A, B, and C, let's go to D, ESSER 3 Summer School Grant Opportunity.
So we just want to kind of put this on your guys' radar. It has been brought up with the administration team that this grant is available through DPI. It is a competitive grant, and it's a total of $15.4 million that the DPI has set aside for this opportunity. The grant writing webinar is tomorrow, just kind of getting the gist of the grant as a whole. Applications are due February 17th, and notifications will be given by the end of March 2023. With that being said, these funds, as I stated, are competitive. We would potentially qualify for a minimum of $115,000 and a max of $575,000 that can be used between March 2023 and September 2024.
Can you, sorry,
Yep.
the
March.
115
To 575,000.
And-
That's the
usable through what date range?
September 2024
March 23.
starting.
Thank you, sorry.
Yep, absolutely. So initially, we were just kind of internally vetting it a little bit, seeing if there's even interest or if there's, reason for us to go for it. after speaking with Tom Zamzo today and the committee that's kind of kicking off summer school, we have decided to kind of vet it further, that this could potentially pilot some opportunities if we were to get it, such as potential transportation to and from summer school, which we feel is a barrier for our children in our area, being rural and having a lot of parents out working outside the home. And then it also would give opportunity for us to expand some of our summer school offerings, and obviously if enrollment expands, being able to accommodate that as well. So we're excited for the opportunity and the potential that's there. It can be used the money can be used for planning, preparation, any kind of delivery of the summer school, transportation, as well as data and resources to collect after to see what we've put into place, how it worked. So we'll be looking into it further from a financial standpoint. I wanted to bring it to you guys, just letting you know that it is on our docket and we are looking at it, and kind of field any questions that you might have now. As I said, the webinar's tomorrow, so I've read through the 30 pages.
I'm assuming you're going to be in the webinar tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely. There's several of us that are just going to attend and kind of see. And then also, Julie forwarded me an email today. Marshfield Clinic has a program that will actually help schools write for the grant, like give us feedback, kind of read through it since it's a competitive grant, and give us feedback, because what is it called? They run a program.
After school something or other, but it's free.
It's
Their
free.
assistance is free, which that
Wisconsin
doesn't happen
After
very
School
often.
Network they run, and so then they can give feedback for proposals and ideas as to what might strengthen them. So we're also going to look into having them help support just the grant writing in itself. So
Any match or any financial commitment on our part?
none on ours, no. This is, and that's why it really is, I think, a great opportunity to try some things that we've been talking about, just, maybe haven't had the funding. And what would be really interesting is to see once what it does to the enrollment, which then affects our revenue limit, for
Sure.
pupil funding, and so kind of seeing how that all works itself out potentially in the next 2 years, which is really nice, because when you pilot something, 1 year you really don't have enough data to know what to, whether to call it good or not, where this would give us 2 years to kind of use these strategies and see where we're moving, so.
We've tried to grow our enrollment in different ways for summer school, so if transportation.
That's what I'm thinking too. That's the
It's
key.
a game
That's the
changer.
key to this grant for us, because our size of our district alone is so huge compared to other school districts.
640 square miles, I think.
I have had conversations with Tom about the transportation barrier, and with families too. And some of that too was like communication things. We can write it or present it to be more clear, but the simple fact is that we don't have we don't have the funding for it. So
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
a huge barrier.
So after we had that grant discussion,
Yeah.
basically then the team would decide and we would keep the board informed as to what
Absolutely.
okay.
Well, and I guess it's kind of, where do you guys see this kind of being taken at the current moment? I mean, we have until February 17th.
Potentially have one more finance meeting.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if it needs to go to the full board for some reason, I guess it would have to go this month prior to being fully wrote and submitted if we need to do anything. I just know that it was keeping you guys.
The outcome wasn't for a vote necessarily, but more for information.
And I think what we'll do is when I give my report at this upcoming meeting, that in January,
Yeah.
I believe,
Yep.
because we are there. I'll just have you talk to the board about what you've learned in the webinar and whether you see it going forward. And anytime you can win a competitive grant, that's wonderful.
That's good. It might be well, too, to send the packet there that you have.
I
To
can
the board
also
members.
do a one-page overview in case someone doesn't want to read through 33 pages.
I would send the
Here's
33
just-
pages.
Yep, send it all, but
Yeah.
with maybe a.
With an overview
With an
to it.
overview on it, so that way at least a lot of the stuff. that
So
I
when they
went
come
through
to the
tonight-
board meeting, supposedly they'll all have at least seen it and know to expect that you're going to talk about it.
Is there any certain areas they want districts to focus on, or content, or?
Absolutely. So they do have specific funding areas of focus, and in those areas, they want to see summer program learning during the summer months. We have to have SMART goals in partnership with those. But they want us to make sure that we are providing high-quality, evidence-based summer programs and that target the at-risk for the students that have incurred learning loss over the pandemic. And so we're focusing and creating impact on those students. Active, hands-on learning experiences that prioritize the voice and choice of students. Wellness and development and practice of interpersonal competencies, extending learning by offering meaningful and relevant activities and opportunities that promote mastery. So a lot of hands-on, a lot of what I would call enrichment, like really letting them drive their own learning. Enhancing learning by offering programming that engages community partnerships, collaboration, and including adult family learners as we can. So a lot around just target focus learning within hands-on summer experiences is what they want.
And I assume mentioning focusing on learning loss from COVID, I shouldn't say that. It has been noted, especially district report cards, statewide, that the learning loss impacted nearly all districts. So are they asking for, I guess my question is,
Priority.
could our district as a whole fit that category of learning loss, or would they want to specifically identify or need to validate why 25 students, did not experience learning loss versus 125 others?
Absolutely. So no, our district as a whole would fit it.
Okay.
And actually, all Wisconsin districts
Okay.
fit that category, but the way we speak about it, and one thing with DPI and funds that come from ESSER, federal funds, is you have strategies, but you can't disclude anyone, so you offer those strategies to all across the board
Okay.
equally. There are districts that will potentially get priority in funding, and those are sparsity aided districts. We are not sparsity aided, but number 2 priority is a district. Let me exactly read what they say here. Is it in here? Is it in the other one? A district that is less than 10 students per square mile, and we qualify
Definitely.
Yeah.
in that realm. So we are not like the sparsity aided, but we are that very
Yeah.
next category. So
That's why they're hitting transportation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yep, those are the 2.
Has there been conversation about incentivizing summer school staff with maybe a higher wage? I don't know if this fits this, seems like a broad, but I know that we need staff to offer more courses if we want to expand it.
There was an
So
open conversation today with the group that is kind of heading up summer school, and one of the first things on the agenda, we're talking about pay, because so many of our teachers can go get a job at Menards at, or I think they said delivering pizza for $20 an hour, how are we going to be competitive with some of this, and what can we do? And so the conversation is being had. Ultimately, if we receive the grant, we would be able to be more competitive in some of those wages, but currently, for instructional purposes, we are one of the highest paying districts in Wisconsin for summer school, for teachers. It's kind of, we have some IAs that come in and help, or instructional aides that we would look at maybe bringing that wage up a bit, so.
Each summer, we get teachers from other districts actually apply.
Yeah.
Which is noteworthy. We'd prefer to have our own, but
Well, and ideally, if we could get away from having to utilize, it is slipping my mind right now, math and science, what online we use.
are you talking like
Summer-
credit
Yeah.
recovery?
No, well, yes, yeah, I think it is actually, credit
Okay.
recovery in the summer.
Um,
Yep, so if we could get our own district staff to be able to utilize and reteach our curriculum versus an online platform that has a different curriculum, it seems like that would be very beneficial to not just our IAs that cover in person because they can't
Right.
instruct the class, but the students I know struggle with that because it's not the same curriculum.
We did that on kind of a pilot level last summer where we had an English and a math teacher here, and then it was standards-based. So if I didn't show mastery
Yeah.
of these
You
three
had to repeat
standards,
it.
I didn't have to take the entire course over. I could work on those that summer with a certified teacher, and that worked. That was a great pilot, because that's how it should be, instead of so punitive where you dig a hole and you never get out.
Mhm.
I will bring those suggestions to the group that's working on summer school. Those are great suggestions. We were actually talking about even above and beyond even credit recovery, what can we kind of be offering as a summer semester, just in general for kids that want to get ahead or want to take something and gain some more credits for that. So that's a good option.
Odyssey.
Yes, thank you. Oh my gosh. I had Alice in my head. I was definitely not even close. It's like,
So, any other questions on the ESSER?
Maybe when you send that out to the board, Mary Kay, you can notify the board there's some grant information that everybody needs to review before the board meeting that we're going to discuss. That would be something good to jog people's memory.
Okay, we good on this topic?
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Katie. Budget update.
So this is the update that Tim has been presenting to you guys on a monthly basis. I drew it up last month and emailed it, and here it is for this month. Just so you know, just note this is only through December 28th, so it does not have interest in that, and it's not the full December just because there's such a close timeline between running this and tonight. As kind of stated in the email from last month, we are up in revenues due to grant submissions that happened on a timely manner, but we are also up in expenses a bit. Salaries are up, benefits are down a bit, but then our purchase services, repairing some of our maintenance needs that came up as must hit the books, so. And then the non-capital is.
Well, I was going to say, Tim's always talked about that with the ESSER funds, et cetera, you're sitting on stuff, we're paying our personnel and waiting to every 3 months to put it out there to get reimbursement, so our expenses are going to be more than what's coming in for most of the year.
Absolutely. And then the non-capital purchases, a lot of that, has been books and curriculum and things that have been being implemented through curriculum and instruction. Any questions?
I don't know if this fits in this discussion, so if not, Dave,
Oh, go
don't hear me till later, but you said salaries and it prompted. I've heard and been asked about like retention bonuses, we have sign-on bonuses, but the staff that have been here for a very long time aren't, so we're recruiting and we are starting at higher salaries for new staff with no experience and offering sign-on bonuses. And it was brought to me not by a staff member actually, but what about retention bonuses for staff members that have been here 15 years, whatever, because it's hard to fill positions and staff. I know we have numerous staff that are at a point where they could retire. So is there any way to incentivize to keep those strong valued staff a little bit longer?
We feel, and now, Katie being new to the table, that the board has done a good job of doing that by adding to the salary schedule each year.
Yep.
We have a strong history of kind of staying competitive, and when I say strong, the 5 years I've been here, we've been really pleased, and so have the teachers. But it is disconcerting that after Act 10, there's no incentive to stay in a district anymore, and I assume that's what you're alluding to. The correction I would make is it's very unlikely, I would say even impossible for someone without the experience, unless you meant local experience. But like if we hire a brand new teacher, that person isn't going to be making more if, let's say she comes from Wausau, then.
Correct. The context was, what do you do with the teachers that have been here for so long when new teachers are getting sign-on bonuses to come? Because, you know what I mean? Like, it presents as though, thank you, we'll increase your salary a little bit, but we're going to give this person a higher salary to start off with and a sign-on bonus just because we need to fill the position. So, you
And
said
sign-on
salary and-
bonuses are used when we can't match.
Fill.
Yeah, or fill.
Correct. Yep.
So, it isn't an easy decision. I had one such conversation over winter break. And so really every teacher has the decision, if it is the salary that is driving me and I'm willing to move each year or every other year, then I can do that. But there's something to say about stability too, and that's tough to put a price tag on. But in terms of retention bonuses, we have not put a package together simply because we feel that the board has kept us very competitive to have people stay.
Yeah.
Julie, didn't we 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, when we tried to align our district with other area districts, didn't a lot of our long-term teachers receive a bonus that year?
Yes, we adjusted to stay.
Some of them received upwards of $4,000 that year in order to align. I know you can't do that every year,
Right.
but that did happen within the last 5-6 years.
I would just say, it's in relation to, should I retire? Because I can, because behaviors are becoming very difficult. It's very, there's more challenges to the job today than there was when numerous staff started years ago. So do I continue to put myself through that stress? Or do I retire now and then, I think it's, from staff or feedback, and again, this retention bonus specifically did not come from a staff member, but I was like, hey, that's actually an intriguing thought. I didn't think about the flip side of it. You know, we want to entice and hire a strong candidate, but what about our staff that we dread when they retire because they're so strong and we appreciate their service, you know, so.
And going to another district, I think would be easier to address than retirement, because that's such a personal decision. You know, I don't know that, well, maybe if we incentivize just those who are retirement eligible, perhaps, if I'm hearing you correctly.
That's just the context of what was brought to me, but I think.
The schedule, and it depends on where the board and our recommendation, where you choose to put your money to. New teachers, we have to remain competitive. And through Act 10, the master's degree lost its value. So we have a whole group of teachers at the last approval. You tried to support the work they did, and they were never compensated for because, again, it lost its value. So we incentivized that. The teacher feedback was after that tiered step, they like that bigger raise every third year. So I mean, we have taken their feedback, but certainly there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, I just thought I would throw it out there. I thought it was an intriguing thought.
I think it's great that it's our community that apparently have come to you on behalf of the staff.
Yes.
You know,
I find it interesting because I'm old enough to remember when the boards were trying to add money to the base to be competitive to get new teachers. And when we had 10, 12, or 15 steps back in the day, those teachers who were at 15 were locked in, and they only got the base, and every other person was getting their step increase. So all the younger teachers were getting more than the old teachers, and they would negotiate for a step 15 increase, you know, to compensate them because everybody else was always getting more money. So it's basically kind of the same thing, is that we have older teachers who've been here forever, and they're seeing us trying to get people and hearing about bonuses, and it's like, where's mine? And I understand that. So we'll have to, at least in our heads, be thinking of our older staff, and maybe we have to do something special for them going forward. For, 1 year, just do something special for them so that they feel like we care, which we do. Okay, we good with that? Joe, you okay?
Yes, thank you.
Budget calendar, last thing on the agenda.
Yes, so I included a preliminary budget calendar for you guys to take a look at. I already caught one thing I would like to change with your guys' blessing on. This just kind of outlines the budget, preliminary budget work in developing our budgets, how we do it, and what steps we take for fiscal year 24 or 23-24. The first thing I want to point out is that CLA, our auditors, will be at this month's board meeting on the 23rd to present our audit report. And then that very next one, where it says February 3rd, I ask for your guys' blessing in changing that to the 6th, because that's when our finance committee is next. It's not on the 3rd. And I just want to kind of give you guys an idea of like what you can expect that meeting, what I'll be bringing forth to you. And so now that we're back into the committee structure, in our committee meeting, we'll be kind of talking about parameters, what we can maybe expect, what's out on the horizon of potential changes within our budget for FY24, just to kind of get you guys thinking about where and what we should do moving forward. You know, just thinking back to last year, you guys approve any kind of wage scale, you know, change, or, you know, where should we look at cutting if we need to cut, or where should we look at supplementing if we need to supplement somewhere, and how we want to do that for the next year going forward. So just to kind of preface, February's committee meeting, those are some things that I'll be bringing forth to kind of ask you to think about and where we want to go with that. Hoping that between January and March, we can kind of have an idea of, you know, where the administration team budgets lie, program position analysis, all the principal admins, figure out their building budget area and what their needs are. Between that time, we'll bring the full budget to a budget meeting with the board to review the components and present an administrative recommendations that we may need to make, and then meet with board regarding the district staffing at the current moment, if anything needs to be adjusted, review the maintenance and 10-year capital improvement plan. I know that there are some changes that we're hoping to happen with that plan to try and have things in our horizon a little sooner than kind of the fail-stop issue. Like if something happens, it just breaks. We're going to try and kind of be a little proactive and see if we can keep that plan rolling a little bit more up-to-date if possible, with the principals' input on that. You know, they know their buildings best, and so they can give us that information. Then in April, our building and department budgets are due to the business office, kind of requests and wants and wishes, and we kind of build out what we can. And then in May, requisition for school supplies for this year are due and get cut off. So then we kind of see what we have left in our current budget and what the projection looks like. May, we bring the preliminary budget presented to the board. The board approval of any requisition for school supplies, and review where we're sitting for 22-23. As you know, and I think probably Dr. Bardo knows very well, is a preliminary budget is very preliminary, especially this
Absolutely.
year. Like, I would not bet my
Tim
life.
would be very proud of you.
Yes, like it's very
That's what
preliminary,
he
guys.
says, yeah.
Tim never did a preliminary budget. He
Yeah.
just said,
Very, very preliminary, like,
yes, we understand.
This is not stone, we're not getting out our chisels. As we know that it can be up until October before we even have numbers from the
Right.
state. So that's kind of between now and then a quick overview of what you can expect and different things on the horizon. Any questions?
You mentioned cuts. I'm not focusing on cuts right now, but one thing that the board has discussed is in the near future and planning and things. And so this is a big question that I didn't prepare ahead of time, but I was just thinking about, like, how do we start that discussion? Maybe in date, like, how do we do something where we put, I don't want to say cut specifically, but like, what's our long-term plan? And I know that's probably going
Balance
to
in the budget.
anticipate, yes, building and grounds and things like that too, but yeah, how can we start having intentional conversations about that? So that way we can have an understanding when we go through your budget calendar and then into the following year and things where we're at. And
Well, first of all, if every building stays the same, we know how many rooms we have.
Yep.
We know how many projected kids we have. We know what grade level they are. And then we look at how many teachers we need for that grouping. And basically, you go through the whole system, and if you have less kids, and let's say in the elementary level, there's one staff member we don't need, and they have no options for moving to the middle school, for example, if we have a need there. There's just ways you look at it, and you basically have your people who are going to retire, and what I always did is if we had to make a cut, the first place we would hope there would be somebody who retires, then you don't have to let someone go. So you're also looking at your retirements, and then you just end up with a number, and for the past few years, we've had, not that our total number of positions within the grades increased, but we had people retiring, people leaving, and so we had fills to do. I don't think since my 2 years on the board, we've had to really do cuts. But that's always depending, and as our population goes down, and one of the things that I want to stress is that we have to keep an eye on what's going on down at Mattoon. We're going to have some sort of dialogue with Wade to find out which grades are you actually opening up this fall. I think it's in maybe February is when they start doing that process to get who wants to come, and do they have slots for them. So we know on that end, and yes, they're saying some of those kids might be Whitburn kids, some of them might be Bowler kids, but we need to determine how many of them are our kids on the southern part of the district, and especially if they're even farther north, then we have to provide transportation. So we need to get a handle on that, and if it hits us in one grade in particular, maybe we need one less teacher. It's hard to say, but we're going to have to stay on top of that.
Yeah, well, and just kind of looking at last year to this year, Julie, you're correct, we haven't cut positions. We've been able to shift some funds into ESSER, so like Mark's budget took a hit, Jake's budget took a hit, and we were able to take those cuts and fund them through ESSER. Julie and I have been working on just kind of how do we explain the fiscal cliff and what's going on in very layman terms, consumable, because prior to working at the district, I had heard it all the time, and I can guarantee you I would have never repeated it or been able to explain it in a way that made sense. Mm-hmm. And so very quick and off the cuff, imagine 2 years ago you were just making ends meet at your job. And imagine that in the last 2 years with inflation and everything that you were never given a raise, but you were given some stimulus money here and there. And you were told that you had to spend it by a certain date or you would lose it. And so that date comes. Inflation is still sky high, but you were never given a raise in the last 2 years, and now you have no stimulus money either. And that's where our districts in Wisconsin are at. We have never been given a revenue increase in the last 2 years. We have stayed steady. We've been given supplements, but told, don't use that for basic needs. Don't do that. But you're not giving us a raise either. So how do we bridge that inflation gap? You can't without those funds. And so we're really hoping that the state comes good and can figure this out. But like I said, I wouldn't get my chisel and hammer out for anything at this point. Yeah.
But Katie, that's very perceptive, because the more you can talk in layman's terms without using educational jargon, the better it's going to be.
100%.
We've been working monthly, actually, with the high school on their scheduling, because we're pretty flush with staff here. Now, when we can't hire, then we get into the overload, so we still have some of those happening, but we also have really low class sizes, and that's just I don't think, acceptable any longer based on this fiscal cliff. So we're meeting routinely with them, looking for efficiencies, and if we have to offer classes every other year so that every student is who is interested can take that, that's great, but then it's a savings 1 year. We just have to think about it differently, and you're talking about staffing based on enrollment. We haven't really done that here because we haven't had to. So we're flipping that switch.
But we do have some changes in our district that are maybe coming that we need to take into consideration and really make sure we're being efficient with the capacity that we have and making sure that we're able to find some efficiencies if possible as a
There's-
district.
There's a prep time discussion, I'm sure you remember too. High school teachers have the best gig, always have had. And elementary teachers traditionally have the worst because
Yes.
those little buggers never leave your side. You eat lunch with them, you have to take them to the bathroom. I mean, so we're looking at that too. Can we recognize some efficiency? Now, if I'm a high school teacher, I hate the sound of that because I went through it as a teacher. You're taking my prep time away. No, but there are creative ways we can look at and make sure that they still have adequate time. But again, are we doing what we can in the most fiscally responsible way? I would say no, not here.
Where's the elementary teacher's prep time?
When the students have art, music, phy-ed, so sometimes 30 minutes a day only.
Do they,
It's interesting.
well, and sometimes they have the extras in the classroom.
Right, because there's no space, so then it's really not prep at all. And when those teachers are absent and there are no subs, there's no prep.
I will tell you, my favorite time as a principal was when there was no sub. And I got,
Subbed?
because I would sub, you betcha, get me out of the office.
Yeah,
Get me in there with the kids.
Yeah, but the fiscal cliff and ESSER, and we've created positions, transportation, we funded different things. Those are the things that, do we maintain the positions we created and filled? So how?
oh, with
You know,
ESSER
yeah,
dollars, you're
correct.
saying? Not
Yeah.
necessarily.
Well,
I mean,
so
will
those
be-
are the
yeah.
discussions too within the budget that
Yep.
is not necessarily a cut, but we've been creative and we've had funding that we can move from one area to another and not take the loss or have to make cuts, but like that discussion is important because our time frame is coming. When is ESSER 3 have to be spent by?
Next.
24.
That's what I thought, so.
Yeah, September 2024 is the cutoff for all of it.
Okay. Sorry,
No.
I did not
Yes, great.
prepare that.
That's why we're here, get questions answered. Anything else for the good of the group?
May the 9th, I don't know if I misunderstood, you said requisitions for this school year are cut off on May the 9th, or, because I'm reading that as for next year.
For the start, so those.
start of
No,
next year.
so, correct. Those are for the start, excuse me. It's
Okay.
actually in April that we try to
Begin that.
begin,
I
yep,
see.
that
Okay.
process, yes. Excuse me.
And that's one of the things, though, that if you're coming in on a plus side of a budget,
Yeah.
you can always buy those supplies in this budget to get ahead of next year's budget, and that opens up more money in your next budget for something. But
Or-
many times,
Yeah.
you can't do that, but if you can, that's always a good way to go.
Yeah, or in our case, we like to try to look at, what's on that 10-year capital improvement plan that needs attention now.
Sure.
And
Right.
try to keep up on some of that.
The other thing that caught my attention was January to March 23 is the meet with the board regarding district staffing, any layoff, non-renewal notices reviewed. Should that be bumped up because those have to be issued prior to the 15th of January, right? Or January 31st?
No.
That's only admin.
That's only admin.
Thank you.
Teachers, I
Certified
think,
staff are in the spring.
in the spring.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Staffing, got it.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Thank you. Not that I want you to take this seriously, okay? But I stopped in to see Tim last week and just said, congratulated him on retiring, told him I was going to miss him. And I said, now you're coming to the meeting on Tuesday. I said, you're working till that Friday, the 6th, right? Yeah. I said, you're coming on the 3rd. He goes, oh, no, Katie will handle it. Please tell him tomorrow how wonderful it was that it was you.
That it's my presence. And
Yeah, and that is.
I didn't say you did.
I know, but I want you to tell him that.
He's watching.
I guarantee you he is not.
I think he's not.
But I will tell him he needs to tune in for this time, 6:58.
There you go. Okay, meeting adjourned.